Hi guys, welcome to the land of Brenterica. I'm Brent.
And I'm Erica. Guys, we are social entrepreneurs and we run a real estate investing business.
And also Erica is a full-time model. And as you can see, we have a bunch of stuff today. We've been moving a bunch of stuff out of a storage locker. Our real estate investing business needs to empty out a whole storage locker so that we can increase our cash flow, but that's not why we're here to talk to you today. We're here to talk about suicide prevention, and what to do if someone you know is going through that. We had a real close friend of ours that went through that, and it's just such a crazy thing if you're ever involved in it, and what to do. And Erica, this is a special date for you, isn't it?
It is. Well, besides it being September, which is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, which is exciting. I'm glad they have a month for it. Today actually marks 2 years since my second attempt. So it's really special today. I didn't think I'd be here. Suicide affects a ton of people. Usually there's, family or friends that you know, if it hasn't even happened to yourself. So I did a talk in one of my college classes. It was my psychology of death and dying, and we actually had a unit specifically for suicide. The teacher knew my story. She asked me to share it with the class. So I'll kind of give you a little bit about what I said. When I was little, I started having depression at age 5 due to some family issues. There was a death in my family with a very close member, and I became very depressed. There was alcoholism, which I later battled in my life when I was 21. I'll talk about that later. But the depression came off and on throughout the years. When I was 14, I became very chronically ill for 10 years, and the depression just worsened with that. So that was when I was 14. When I was 16, I had my first attempt. I'm candid about this because it's so dear to my heart, and I know so many people go through it. So 16, I overdosed. I woke up in the ICU the next morning. My body was still paralyzed from all of the medication. They had me on a Narcan drip. I was only breathing once to twice a minute, and they had the respiratory arrest team there just waiting. And so when I woke up in the ICU, the first thing that came to my mind was, thank God I'm still alive. I got a second chance. So that's when I was 16. At age 22, I was still battling the illness, still battling the depression. My brother had just moved out, which I'm very, very close to. School was getting to me, the stress of it. And I went through a very unexpected bad breakup that was just too far, to push me at that point. So unfortunately, well, kind of fortunately, I learned from it, but I actually used a scalpel and cut my wrist. And after I cut myself, I was bleeding out, and I didn't know what to do. I got scared. I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to end, so I ran and got help. And that's one of the biggest things is suicidal people, they don't want to die. All they want to do is have the pain stop. They don't want it really in their lives. They just don't know how to get help. They don't know how to fix things because they can't even help themselves.
And the world's just crowding on top of everything. Everything's just imploding.
Yeah. So after I started recovering from that and recovering from the depression, I stopped going to school that semester. Actually took a whole year off before I went back just to take time for myself. I still have the scars on my wrist, and I eventually got my project semicolon tattoo to mark that event, but in a way that I was able to feel victorious about it. I'd look at my scars when I'd be driving. I'd see them, reflecting the sunlight when I had my hand on the wheel. So
we actually met a guy today that had a tattoo on his wrist that was blacked out. He said it was a cover-up, and Like he was at a Starbucks and he didn't want to talk about it. We finally guessed that he'd actually covered up the scars on his wrist.
Yeah, and there were so many people that told me, you don't really want to get a tattoo there because it's just going to draw attention. That's okay with me because I'm open to share my story. I know so many people go through it, and when I found Project Semicolon, they are a non-profit organization. It was started by a young girl who went through the same thing. She battled depression, so she started this organization, and they bring awareness and prevention to suicidal people. So I saw that and I'm like, oh, that's what I want. I knew I wanted a tattoo next to my scars, and when I saw that, I was like, that's the one. So I got that a year ago. Now it's 2 years. Guys, there's so many different triggers that can send people into that state. Depression's a big one. Different kind of mental disorders. There's borderline personality disorder, bipolar, all sorts of things. So when people have that, you know, kind of working against them, then really anything at that point can set someone off. So in my case, it was a bad breakup. It was my brother moving out. It was the stress of school. Anything, even if it doesn't seem big, can send you into a deeper spiral. And when you're at that point, sometimes it's hard to know what to do. A lot of times people don't know. So it's really important for family and friends to be on the lookout for triggers like that, actions. A lot of people who are depressed or suicidal will say they're okay, and they're really not. I did the same thing. I didn't want to burden other people with my problems.
And it's really embarrassing. There's a big stigma in a lot of religions that it's selfish. Whenever family members said, hey, that's the most selfish thing you can do, you know, ridiculous, right?
Yeah, that was one of the most hurtful things that stuck with me.
And some people say that, oh, you know, everyone who commits suicide goes to hell, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's literally that at that point, this world seems too painful to be in. And like I said, we just want that pain to stop. So please, if you know someone or if it's you, please don't say to them, you know, it's the most selfish thing or that you're going to go to hell. That really doesn't help at all. If you know someone, try not to fight with them. That'll just push them over the edge. The best thing that you can do is just, you know, lend your love and support and trust and listen to them and be there for them. And there's going to be usually some form of asking for help from that person. It may not be verbal, but in their actions. And if they seem withdrawn, that's a big sign. If they start giving their things away or saying goodbyes, that's a big one. Usually suicide is not, usually it's not sudden. It's usually planned. The person goes into a deeper and deeper and deeper state until they get to that point where they just don't know what to do. So look for those signs, look for those triggers. Once they're in that spot, if they lose a job or if, you know, they can't pay their rent.
And a lot of times people will say something and that's, you know, we know someone who recently went through that where someone actually was saying, hey, you know, I'm pretty much thinking about ending it, and what do you do? And so we actually went through this with some people we know, someone who reached out like, oh my God, and we found out that you can go to, you can just go to your local hospital and they'll do a psych evaluation, but here's the best thing to do. There's a suicide hotline prevention number. I just got the number here. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255, and the person that went through this, actually they got on the phone with their loved one and they were able to talk to that person, get a background before the call, and actually get assessed, you know, how serious is it. Turned out this person was met all the criteria as a big threat, and so they talked to them and kind of, you know, talked them off the ledge, if you will, And you know what's great? People, they actually have a crisis team that will come out.
At that minute, yeah.
And it was late at night. It was like midnight. And so they actually had people go out to them and be with them, knock on the door. These are the bravest people in the world. And they'll come get you and they'll take you to a safe place. And then they have so many resources. We live in such a great country. So there, you've got the hotline number.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to say, so when I talked to this my college class, it was really amazing how people reacted. Throughout the semester, this was at the end of the semester, the classmates, we were all kind of independent, didn't really talk to each other, just went, watched the videos, listened to the teacher, did our work, you know, and that was pretty much it until the end of the semester when this happened. And after I did my talk, different people started raising their hands and opening up and sharing that it was either themselves that had thought about it or actually attempted it. They had known family and friends that had attempted it or gone through with it. And everyone was so good about supporting each other. It was a safe and trusting environment. And so one of the most important reasons why we want to talk about this is because even though a lot of people say, oh no, that's a taboo subject, I don't want to talk about it. It can be uncomfortable to talk about, but it needs to be. I always said that education is prevention. So when more people talk about it, then more people will open up, and chances are you're going to have that similarity with someone.
Lots of people have gone through it. And they've, you know, I think almost anyone you know has been touched by suicide one way or another.
Yeah. And suicide, depression, any kind of mental illness. So for any of you who are in kind of a bad state where you know, are having a hard time, you're not alone. There's plenty of people going through it. There's help out there, which is amazing. It's awesome. Right. Even if you don't have medical insurance, which I know is a big issue.
Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. They'll take care of you. Call that hotline for yourself or for someone you know.
That's right. And we'll wrap up with this, guys. The one major thing to know about someone who's going through suicide or thinking about it is how much pain they're going through. Robin Williams, you know, just recently went through this, and the amount of pain it takes to actually go through with ending your life, it's such incredible, overwhelming, intense pain. So have a lot of compassion in your heart. If you're having someone you know, or if you're having something, reach out, call the number we put on there, do something, reach out. There are people there to help you. So that's
suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Things will get better. They can only go up.
Sometimes you need a little bridge, a little bit of help. You need a safety net. So that's it for us, guys. Hey, listen, you guys have a great night. Thank you for spending your time with us talking about this. Until then, stay frosty.
Love one another.
Exactly. Good earth.